the U.S. government's got about $10 trillion over the next 2 years to roll over, refinance. That's debt. Our country's in debt. It's a huge problem. They got 3 options. 1, they could pay it back. It's not a real option because we don't got the money. We're broke. 2, our government could come out, Charles, and say, you know what, guys, we screwed up. After World War II, we changed the way money worked. We got off the gold standard. We issued debt all over the place. We got way too cocky. And actually, all of our banks don't have your money. They're insolvent. All the airlines you fly and travel on aren't actually good businesses that should be in business. Healthcare shouldn't actually be free. We screwed up. We piled on so much debt and screwed up the younger generation, and we're in huge trouble. So we're going to have to let everything fail and reset this country. Now, they're not going to do that, are they, Charles? They have a third option, which is unique to the government. They could print the money that they're missing. And when they print the money that they're missing, they're stealing from all the people that hold U.S. dollars. And so what they'll have to do is print dollars. And the only way to save yourself is own not dollars. And that's when you see things like the S&P 500 and gold and Bitcoin soar. And so that's what's going to happen over the next 2 years. They got to print 3 times more than they did during COVID.
What do you know and what do you not know about where China is on AI?
Look, I think they're making, from what I can tell, they're making deep investments in AI. The scale of AI research talent in China is just simply astounding to see. So I think, in some ways, this question, China is going to be at the forefront of AI, and I think that's a given.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you're joining the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, hit the Cash App. And guys, we have Jack Mallers from Strike giving us the truth. But he leaves out one thing, and we know what it is. But he says that the United States is broke. $10 trillion they need to roll over. And guys, I did a video on that, breaking that down. We had Mnuchin and Yellen had a chance to do a 50-year bond and extend this debt at a lower cost. And we know why they didn't. And Jack Mallers says that the Fed could come out and say, hey, I took your money. Guys, we know they're definitely not going to do that. They're the master magicians. And he states the third option is that they can print money. And we know they're not going to do that because now they have tokenization. Now we're going to be running through hyperdeflation because of the robots, algorithms, and drones. And they'll be able to tokenize this debt, turn into equity, and airdrop to people free money. Universal basic income, programmable money, telling you what, when, and how to buy, and you have 3 to 6 months to spend it or poof, it's gone. And we had the Alphabet CEO says China is definitely going to lead AI because we know the emerging markets are going to rise. And China, the dragon, is going to lead the way with that new world reserve currency. Yes, guys, it takes time. It moves in phases. But that digital yuan is going to be backed by that digital SDR. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. Now we have Ray Dalio, of course, guys. Those who know Ray Dalio, those who watch my Ray Dalio videos know that he's been heavily invested in China for decades. And he talks about the United States debt. He knows it's unsustainable, and he knows no one wants this long-term paper. We know Japan and China was holding us up, and China has been getting rid of these treasuries, and we know eventually Japan is going to have to do the same. But also remember, Japan is well positioned for the 4th Industrial Revolution. Remember, we brought them to San Francisco, the same place that China's Xi met with our big corporations. Guys, we've seen this movie before. And Ray Dalio talks about Taiwan as a part of China. And as long as the United States doesn't step in, we're fine. Guys, we know that's not going to happen. We know those drums are going to get to beating. But it's no longer physical drums anymore, guys. It's cyber drums. But we know the banks fund both sides. And we know the banks are the biggest what? I'll let you finish that. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. Because he knows. When it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
The rates are. I think that most likely, I think the rate structure is going to be staying at its level, perhaps slightly less, but there's a range of uncertainty around that having to do with the supply-demand question. We're now at a period of time where the supply of bonds to be sold will be start hitting the market, and now we have to see the demand issues of that, and that'll be around there. I think that probably in the vicinity of, I would say somewhere in the vicinity of relatively flat. I don't think there's going to be any important change in the Fed policy other than maybe a slight easing as the economy slows down. I think the thing to realize is that the economy will likely weaken. In other words, its growth rate going to something close to zero, plus or minus, maybe 1%. And with that exerts a slight downward pressure on interest rates. At the same time, the supply issue becomes an important issue. I think we're talking about the short term as very distinct from the longer term. The short term we just talked about. The longer term is that we are at a point in which we are borrowing money to pay debt service. And there is a process by which when you keep having debt growth faster than income growth, then that means that you have debt service encroaching on your spending. That's the same for the government as it is for us. And as that happens, and you want to keep spending at the same level, there is the need to get more and more into debt. And the way that works, it's like it accelerates. We are at the point of that acceleration, which creates the supply-demand problem. And it's made worse by the other issues that we're talking about. The internal political issue, the internal social conflict issue there is something that is affecting foreign demand for bonds. About 40% of our debt is sold to foreigners. And so there is a concern of the American politics, of the controlling of this debt crisis, and these types of things. So we come back to the same basic question. How strong are we going to be? When we talk about strong, what I mean is also economically strong. And economically strong means financially strong. That means it's just a basic thing. Financially strong means, do you earn more than you spend? And do you have a good income statement as a country? Do we have a good income statement? And do we have a good balance sheet? More assets than we have liabilities. The worse that gets, the more we are going to have that long-term problem. And it's just, you can see it in the numbers. It's just a matter of numbers. We are near that inflection point. Then there's the big question of the supply-demand for bonds. In other words, the government produces a certain amount of bonds that are in size that is equivalent of roughly the size of the deficit. That means they're going to have to sell a lot of bonds, okay? And then we look at who are the buyers of those bonds and do they have an adequate appetite? And that's a big risk because we have many who own those bonds have had losses in that. That's not just banks, that is central banks. That is Japanese investors and so on. And so there's a supply-demand issue. Taiwan was promised at the end of World War II to be returned to China, and everybody agreed on that. During 1895, the Japanese came in, took Taiwan. At the end of World War II, it was given back, and everybody agreed that there's one China, and Taiwan's part of China. And that issue is a very, very important issue. It's a territorial issue that relates to China, and very much part of the relationships. If there is not a statement of independence, if the United States doesn't say that there is an independent Taiwan, I believe that you're going to continue to see this issue be a thorny issue. A source of tension, but not something that's going to be beyond that source of tension. If the United States or other parties operated where there was a declaration of that, or that there were major military actions, then that would raise the temperature. I do not expect that there would be any initiation on China's part. Tensions, of course. I think the whole environment, what was the main point of what happened in that meeting between Biden and Xi? The main point is that we're now in an environment of fierce competition, which is different than being right at the brink of war. When they look down the abyss and think about war, literally, war, terrible. When they looked down the abyss, there was a step back from that abyss with the idea of a very fierce competition. Now, this will be a Chinese type of competition as well. If you look at the history of the perception of war, they find that going into a military war, if you go into a military war, you must not have been very smart because you didn't win without going into a war. And that is that game that starts with, was described with the art of war, is a game in which there's a strategic operation. So that game is still full on. This is not a change in the basic structural issue of a rising power and an existing power and a struggle for who has what say. That will continue. But fortunately, the risks of a military war have been reduced by this.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China. But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and you know, when the dealers have to step in to save a Treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.